receivers have not been involved much, but 9 completions for Jackson so far. Dixon, who fumbled a moment ago, is back in the game. And in the middle, Jackson for his tight end, brought in by Mark Andrews, who escapes and goes all the way for the touchdown. 68 yards. Rookie to rookie, and the Ravens retake the lead.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Mobtown Blitz podcast.
I'm Kyle J. Andrews, and you can follow me on Twitter at KyleJ_Andrews_.
Also, I'm joined here today by my good friends Eric Himmelheber and Anthony Barkley. How are you guys doing today, and where can we follow you guys on Twitter?
What's up, what's up? This is Anthony Barkley here. You can follow me on Twitter at AE Barkley. That's AYEEBARKLEY.
So guys, Eric Himmelheber here. You can follow me on Twitter at EHIMMELHEBER.
Yeah, he has a really long last name.
I gotta change that.
As always.
That was a mouthful.
Yeah, it's a really long name. But as always, we are proud to do this podcast for one of the top sports websites in the district, DMVSportsNetwork.com, and they can be followed on Twitter and Instagram at DMV_SN. They have some great daily content up on there about all things in DC sports as well as Baltimore sports, and you can addition to college sports and a lot more. So after you listen to this podcast, please go ahead and check it out. In addition, please be sure to subscribe to our show wherever podcasts are available, and this includes Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and SoundCloud. So let's get this thing rolling. Obviously, it was a big week in Ravens football. Ozzie Newsome is no longer the general manager.
The GOAT is gone.
It's a new day. It's a weird day.
Very
it's
weird.
A new day.
It's empowering for Erics everywhere.
How do you feel about Eric DeCosta taking it all over?
Eric? Since you're Eric?
Oh, yeah. I think it's great. I mean, the fact that, he was able to shadow, Ozzie Newsome, Ozzie's probably going to go into the Hall of Fame as a general manager, so to be able to learn from a future Hall of Fame general manager is usually a good sign too. And seeing as how the Ravens always receive trade offers for DeCosta throughout the years, but they kept them tight and locked and everything, so it's probably a good sign that we're going in the right direction.
What about you, Anthony?
I want to say also, let's not forget, it's not like Ozzie's going to be completely gone from the building.
Yeah.
He's still going to be on as a consultant, but Eric DeCosta is going to have the final word. I think it's just going to be kind of weird, the Ravens fans at first, to just hear, it took me a while to be like, oh, general manager Eric DeCosta, and I'm like, that just sounds so odd, but this is something that Ozzie and Steve Bisciotti have been grooming Eric DeCosta for, and now he's going to have his shot, especially with a great offseason. There's so many free agents and so many ways that the team can be built through free agency, and then talented draft class coming up. So it's going to be a real interesting first year with Eric DeCosta as GM.
I definitely agree. I mean, the biggest thing that I saw from his press conference was just that Eric DeCosta wants to go in this analytical approach. And we already saw that across Camden Yards, and Mike Elias has already gone into that analytical approach. And in football, you have a lot of guys that are also doing that at the field level position. So you have offensive quality control coaches and defensive quality control coaches. They look at the tendencies of what players are going to do, what coaches are going to do in certain situations, and then they try to make adjustments off of that. And it seems like what Eric DeCosta wants to do, he wants to kind of get more into those kind of aspects of the game. He wants to break down the numbers, crunch the numbers. And people have also talked about how John Harbaugh is an analytical-driven coach, which, I mean, in some cases, some people might not see it on field, but a lot of the things that he does, I guess I feel like it's overthought sometimes, but he means well behind it with some of his approaches, with some of those timeouts that he calls. I just feel like it was misguided on where those things were coming from because he didn't have the right person. Or I guess not that he didn't have the right person to lead him, but I felt like he didn't have a person, he didn't have the support on that staff to kind of run those things. So, I mean, I feel like if you could find those guys at the lower level, instead of just being like, okay, well, we're going to poach some coaches from some other place, I feel like down the line, the Ravens will be fine with that. And I also feel like Eric DeCosta's draft, I mean, when it comes to him, he wants to retool his offense. Ravens need offensive linemen.
Lord knows that's what they do.
Yeah, they need receivers.
We need somebody to fill in Eric Weddle's position too.
Exactly.
Because he's probably not going to be coming back either.
Yeah, if Eric Weddle doesn't return, they're going to have to get a safety.
Not to mention pass rushers.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God, yeah.
Always. Pass rushers are always at a premium. And then I would always argue that the Ravens need to do something at middle linebacker because we don't know if C.J. Mosley will be back.
If they don't bring back C.J. Mosley, our run game is going to be screwed. Because I know Kenny Young really stepped up with Peanut when they benched Peanut earlier in the season, and then Peanut came back and he had a great end of the season. But I don't think Kenny Young and Peanut are going to be the two guys up the middle that will just replace Mosley like it's easy money. Like Mosley, he really deadered in pass defense over the years because during his rookie season, you saw he was strapping tight ends like he was a safety or a cornerback himself. But if we don't re-sign C.J. Mosley, that's going to be a huge hole in our defense.
I do like Peanut, and I do like Kenny Young. I do feel like, however, though, we really do need C.J. Mosley. You know, he was tasked with replacing arguably the greatest linebacker of all time, Ray Lewis. And, I mean, it was a pretty decent transition. Not to say that he is Ray, but...
Nah, yeah.
He held his own. Like, it wasn't like a massive drop-off. There was some drop-off, but it wasn't too crazy. But C.J. more than held his own. Perennial Pro Bowler, stud of a linebacker. We need C.J.
Yeah. It's kind of like the situation with Brandon Williams. When you look at the difference in the run defense when Brandon Williams isn't playing versus when he is playing, it's such a huge difference. And that's why I feel like C.J. Mosley is that of the linebacker group. If C.J. Mosley is not up the middle, our run game is going to take a hit big time.
I totally agree with that. And I mean, I think the other thing, too, is that when it comes to that kind of stuff, I think Eric DeCosta will look into all those kind of aspects of the game, try to make a more all-around approach. So instead of just, I felt like with Ozzie a lot of times, and don't get me wrong, I think he was a great GM at one point. I feel like he did a really good amount of things to kind of, assist what the Ravens were doing at the time. But I felt like once the game evolved a little bit, things kind of, changed a little bit for Ozzie when it came to finding those guys that can be all-around players. Like before, the scouting department, Ravens scouting department got poached a lot. We got to remember, we're talking about a scouting department that had so many people from the Eagles staff, and the Eagles have been able, once they won the Super Bowl with practically, I would say about 4 or 5 of the Ravens' major scouts and people in major development. So I feel like Eric DeCosta, he's going to have to trust his scouts, like he said, but he is going to have to try to make some sense of what those scouts are going to do and point them in the right direction. And like we said before, with C.J. Mosley, it's going to be hard to replace him if they do have to replace him. But I do feel like if anybody's going to be tasked with that job and do a solid job of it, I think that Eric DeCosta, with some of the decisions that he's helped make in the past, it'll be a good situation for the Ravens to have.
I think we embrace the challenge of building the best team we can, the best offense that we can, the best defense that we can. And we've got a quarterback with a unique skill set. And so how best can we make him better? What types of players are we looking for? A lot lot of that's going to happen with input from the coaches and what they think is best for Lamar. And this is a really, really fun, exciting offseason because we get a chance to look at other teams and maybe even have the chance to draft some players or add some players that maybe other teams don't like as much as we do because we're doing something so different. So we may be able to find or exploit that situation a little bit.
And that was Ravens general manager Eric DeCosta on Lamar Jackson's ability to be able to attract free agents.
So moving on to our next topic, we're talking about the end of the Ravens season, or I guess the entire season that is. How did it unfold in you guys' eyes? Is this what you guys expected, or did you expect something different to happen going on into the start of the season?
I thought Lamar was going to start a lot earlier, to be honest. It made sense, though, after the bye, to give him a full week of prep ready, for that Cincinnati game. But, I mean, overall, AFC North champions. It just sucks the way it ended, though. Lamar won like 6 out of his 7 first starts. And then, obviously, the playoff start didn't really go so well for him. But just as a whole, that defense was just absolutely ridiculous. And then, once Lamar got in, the offense kind of just seemed a little bit more energized, even though, didn't really pass for too many yards in the season. I think it was like a little over 1,000. And he had the 6 touchdowns and the 3 interceptions. He had the 5 rushing touchdowns. But just, I think what we saw in general was just the beginning of what's to come from an exciting offense with Greg Roman as the offensive coordinator now. Is that offense is going to look absolutely insane with the whole offseason to work with it. Now that the Ravens front office has seen what Lamar can do as far as throwing and as far as running and how his body held up against like NFL defenders.
Yeah, because you look at that Chargers playoff game, Lamar got crushed. Imagine if he wasn't as elusive as he is now. Like, if that was Joe Flacco standing back there in that pocket during that playoff game, he would have been smashed almost every single play. Like, Lamar Jackson's elusiveness alone is incredible to watch. We look at guys like Cam Cameron, Russell Wilson in the league.
Newton.
Did I say Cam Cameron?
You didn't say Cam Cameron.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to go as far as offensive coordinators.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Cam Cameron is pretty elusive on that sideline. But Cam Newton, Russell Wilson, even back, when Colin Kaepernick was playing, he was pretty incredible with his speed and agility. And you look at Lamar Jackson, and he just upped the ante. And seeing, when he came in and started for us, I kind of had the expectation like, all right, let's just see what he has. I'm not going to set my standards high. I'm not going to say, oh yeah, he's not going to lose a single game. We're going to win the division outright, no problem, and have no problems at all. But Lamar Jackson really kind of like exceeded my expectations. He really did put the team on his back per se, and I think it surprised a lot of people because that's a lot to put on a rookie quarterback's shoulders, especially
21-year-old too.
Especially in the middle of the season when the team was what were they 4-5 at the time when he first came in? Yeah. So it's not like they said, look, we're on the brink of a playoff berth right now. You got to go in and do this. It was right in the middle of the season. He had to just go with the flow right in the middle of the season, and I feel like for a rookie quarterback, that's extremely hard to do. And he showed up. And I even had my doubts about him at first, and he completely proved me wrong, and I have no problem in admitting that.
I think my initial doubts came from not necessarily Lamar Jackson, but with the offense, like the play calling and everything would come, especially having Marty Mornhinweg as the offensive coordinator. I didn't necessarily think that the Ravens could draw an offense this progressive, but then you come to find out, Greg Roman obviously was the designer of the Colin Kaepernick offenses, the Tyrod Taylor offenses, and he was able to kind of mold this offense into his own, even though he was a run game coordinator, and now he's the offensive coordinator. It's going in a different direction, and I feel like that Ravens offense, it just turned completely around. They became less one-dimensional. I think with Marty Mornhinweg, they kept saying, well, he's the best fit for Joe. No, he was John Harbaugh's best fit for Joe. He wasn't necessarily the best fit. And I feel like that's what they got wrapped up on too much, was that John Harbaugh, we can see it now with all of his hires, all of his hires are friends of his. You know, he's not going out of his way to hire people from outside of the organization who he doesn't really know that well. Even though at a lower level positions, how many times have you seen John Harbaugh promote somebody up from, like, you know, a quality control position? And the first time I saw it was this year was Matt Weiss, who's the new running backs coach.
Just about to say, yeah. Running backs coach just got promoted from within.
And I think he has a bright future ahead of him, but I feel like the Ravens never really tried to do stuff like that. They kept banging their head into a wall previously. They would hire guys like, you know, you would get Cam Cameron, or you would get, you know, you had Jim Zorn as the quarterbacks coach. You had
he's the defensive coordinator.
Yeah, as a defensive coordinator, a guy that John Harbaugh was friends with. You know, Greg Madison, he sent Greg Madison out to be the defensive coordinator for Michigan at one point. And then it was just things like that just, you know, it was mind-boggling. I never understood why, you know, oftentimes John Harbaugh will hire these guys that he's just like, he's buddy-buddy with. And there's no offense to him because I feel like he's a solid coach. I just feel like these guys... Yeah, I mean, I feel like the guys that he's delegating to just aren't up to par a lot of times. I feel like Greg Roman, on the other hand, he's had that proven experience as an offensive coordinator that you're like, maybe he might actually be able to do something, because his offense is progressive back then. It's still very progressive now.
Right.
You know? I mean, who would have thought that you would have been able to change the offense just from that point, from day one? You know, as soon as Lamar flipped over, they had a whole playbook for him.
I think maybe what they did before, I mean, we don't know. You know, we weren't there while they were drawing up plays in the offseason. But I feel like once the Ravens got Lamar, you know, you all heard, like, whispers of after we're going into the lab, we're making plays, we're getting in the lab and making up this whole playbook. I felt like what you saw was like a bare bones of what's going to come next year. So... let's just get Lamar into these pistol formations, something that he's comfortable with in college. He can run under the, you know, center. Let's not Lamar, like he doesn't know how to run a pro-style offense. The guy went to Louisville, you know, and that offense was crazy complex with their head coach. I think, like I said, what you see is the bare bones. Let's just see what the kid can do, you know. Get him in the pistol, get him comfortable with running the read option, have him run these RPOs, you know, the run pass options, and just let's see how the ball comes out of his hand. Let's see if he can read some defenses. Let's see how the speed that he had in college, which was like crazy, you know, the way he would just run around people, hurdle people, all those things that he did while he was at Louisville. You know, let's see how well does that translate to the NFL. And I was at that first game against Cincinnati, and it looked like a blur. Like, it just looked like how fast he ran. I was mind blown. I was like, the dude is crazy athletic, and let's just get this out of the way. The man can throw the football, okay? For everyone who's saying that he cannot throw, he can throw. Stop calling him a poor man's Tim Tebow. Stop saying that he can't
poor
throw.
man's Tim Tebow. Tim Tebow couldn't throw a football past 5 yards without, you know, that weird delivery.
That's another thing. Like, people don't think like Lamar Jackson can't throw. He's also accurate too. Up until the end of the season, he had one of the highest pocket ratings out of all quarterbacks under 25 years of age. So that includes guys like Carson Wentz, Jared Goff, Baker Mayfield. Yeah, he was up there with them. So he can definitely be a pocket passer when they let him. Like you were saying about the playbook, you know, going into the season, Joe Flacco's the starter, so they try to make the playbook, you know, around Joe's style of quarterback.
Right.
And when Lamar Jackson came in, they're like, all right, well, we don't have a full playbook that fits Lamar Jackson's style like we do with Joe, so we have to run a really bottom-of-the-barrel type of playbook for plays that we already drew up for Lamar. But now they have a whole offseason. They know Lamar is going to be the starter. And like you said, with Greg Roman as the offensive coordinator now, they have unlimited options to make a new playbook to fit the style and really, really make this offense a lot more dangerous, in my opinion.
And one of the things that really irritated me was that, like, you heard coaches, like, knock and trash the offense, it's like a Navy option offense, and I was like, well, first of all, Navy runs the triple option.
Yeah, they run a flex bone. Like, they don't run anything close to.
Yeah,
like, it's just so is stupid because you look at some of the things that the Ravens have done. It's crazy because you look at you take things from what Urban Meyer did at Florida and Ohio State. At Ohio State, it really is more like the Ohio State Urban Meyer offense. And the fact that he's passing out of this stuff.
Right.
Like, and the thing is, this was the bare bones version of it. Like you said, once Greg Roman gets an entire off season to work on this stuff, and then you got other people coming in that are going to assist Lamar in trying to get his passing correct. I mean, he's going to have another full off season to work with James Urban as his quarterbacks. Well, I mean, not the off season, but he'll be able to throw with his new receivers. He'll be able to fully be entrenched as the leader of the team. He's the leader now. Before it was like, okay, this is still Joe Flacco's team, which is fair, but now Joe's going to be gone, so there's no excuses for anybody to not surround Lamar with the right talent, because the Ravens have always tried to say, okay, well, Lamar Jackson, Joe Flacco, we're just going to allow them to do everything by themselves. We're not going to get the receivers because we feel like, okay, well, we paid Joe so much money, so we don't need the receivers. We don't need the offensive linemen. And look where that's gotten the Ravens in the past. And I feel like with Lamar Jackson and you have Eric DeCosta now, both of these people now are going to they're going to try to surround Lamar with talent and give him the right offensive pieces to work with through the offensive line. And they're going to give him receivers as well. They already got him the tight end. So I feel like you get him some receivers, you get a running back, and you get an O-line. Lamar, sky's the limit for him if, this offense takes off.
Also, two things. So, one, Lamar was on First Take. I believe it was either Thursday or Friday. And he was talking about when he first got there, he wasn't really comfortable working with the receivers, because he didn't really have a lot of chemistry. He was working more with like Jordan Lasley and Jaleel Scott, and he had chemistry with them. And obviously you saw the connection that he had with Mark Andrews over the season. Like, those two were definitely on the same page. And I think towards the end of the season, he developed more chemistry with Michael Crabtree and Willie Snead and John Smokey Brown. So, Lamar, I'm hoping, he's going to work on his footwork, which is going to help with his accuracy. And you're just going to really see a more polished version of that option, more RPOs, more shots down the field. They're going to let Lamar open up and throw that football. And also, while we're talking about the offense, we can't just talk about Lamar. We got to talk about Gus Edwards. This guy came from out of nowhere and just dominated, almost ran for 1,000 yards. I'm not sure if he did or not in the season. Yeah, check up on that.
Yeah, I got you.
I know almost every play that he ran was for a positive yard. Didn't really get knocked back.
I don't think you're right about that. I don't think he ever had a negative play the entire season. He always churned his feet forward, and that's something that Gus Edwards, he's a powerful runner. He runs downhill. That's what the Ravens need. They have two different things where I guess the Ravens, they have two different styles of running with, Gus Edwards, Lamar Jackson, even with Ty Montgomery, with some of the other running backs too, Kenneth Dixon. And I feel like when you mix all those things up and you mix those different types of running styles, that throws defenses off. They're like, oh crap, what do I do now? Now you start running those slide play actions where the tight ends are rolling out, and then they think they're gonna start running that RPO,
right?
Or they're gonna run that play action,
right?
The key to all that is we got to make sure our offensive line holds up, because we saw how they got obliterated in that Chargers playoff game.
Especially Matt Skura, and James Hurst.
Yeah, I don't know why they gave James Hurst a contract. You know me, I was totally against that from the beginning. Whether he was playing guard or tackle, that's nothing against him personally, but I was just looking for results. Yeah. And like you were talking about Gus Edwards, the guy averaged over 5 yards a carry.
718 yards. And not even a full season.
And 11 games.
And a banged up
With a banged up offensive line.
I just hope it doesn't become another Alex Collins story, because remember when Alex Collins first came on, he was a top 10 rusher, and he didn't even start the whole season. So I hope it's not a trend where like Gus Edwards blows up the first year and it just trends off in the next year. But like I said, it really does revolve around the offensive line. You know, the game is won within the trenches, and it's same with Lamar. If you can't give Lamar time, he has the elusiveness and the speed to get out of the pocket, and that's where he works best at. But you still want him to get comfortable in the pocket and to give him time so receivers can get open. And like how you guys were talking about with receivers, the problem is, though, you see the decline in stats in our receivers compared to when Flacco was quarterback and when Jackson was quarterback.
Well, because they were running the ball more. Yeah,
and I mean,
it's like 40 times.
Well, and the receivers take that into account. Like, okay, this is going to be a running style offense, and I need to catch the ball, because that's what they get paid to do. They see other teams. Or when they hit free agency, like John Brown, how he's a free agent, it probably would have looked a lot better on his resume for him if Flacco was the quarterback throughout the season, because he was one of Flacco's favorite targets, and Flacco kept throwing in the ball a lot. When Lamar Jackson came in, that completely changed. So when in terms of recruiting offense or wide receivers in free agency to come here, it's going to be hard and easy at the same time to pitch that, because like you were talking about earlier with Antonio Brown and Lamar Jackson or whatever.
Yeah, Lamar was on first take. I want Antonio. I want Antonio. Which, I mean, why wouldn't you want arguably the best receiver? But
and a lot of receivers like Lamar Jackson too. Like they see like this kid's a young stud. I want to go play with him. But at the same time, receivers, they want the ball. It's not. It's not news to know that receivers are some of the most, prima donnas in the league. They love the ball. Every year there's, even like the top 5 wide receivers, you could name off, probably most of them are divas about getting the ball.
Yeah, and with that being said, we're going to our last segment. But before we go into our last segment, Anthony has a message.
Yeah. All right. So before we continue, it's time to tell you about the DMVSN's Library of Podcasts. Right now, we have 7 active shows, including, not our own obviously, the NBA Quick Report Podcast, the Hogcast, It's About Time, DC Sports, Ed on Wiz, Fantasy Fever with Marcus Hemingway, the DC Power Play, the Dom and Thunder Show. You can find those shows covering from the Redskins, the Caps, Nationals, Wizards, and obviously Ravens. Fantasy Fever, dealing with all things fantasy football, pair mixed bag shows, which is available via live stream on Twitter. All these shows are available wherever podcasts can be found, so please check these out. And if you like any of these shows, please leave a review or even subscribe on all platforms.
So like we were saying before, we're getting into our last topic, and I mean, it's the Super Bowl.
Unfortunately, the Ravens aren't in it, but
I mean, who do you guys think, first of all, are going to be the Super Bowl champions in 2019?
Do I have to say it?
Patriots are going to win.
Yeah,
do you really see Tom Brady losing 2 Super Bowls in a row?
He's going to complete the Infinity Gauntlet. He's going to get the 6th ring.
Tom Brady's Thanos. I thought LeBron.
Yeah, Tom Brady is going to be Thanos.
Yeah.
I thought LeBron was
and
Thanos.
And Ndamukong Suh's going to be Star-Lord. He'll almost get the gauntlet off, and then he'll get a 15-yard penalty. That'll lose the game for him.
Aaron Donald's like Iron Man, He's just like, it's crazy. Because, I actually picked the Rams to win, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Tom Brady win it all.
No.
And my thing is, me picking against the Rams, it's not that the Rams are, it's not me picking against the Patriots, it's not that the Patriots are bad. I got in this conversation before. I'm extremely annoyed by people thinking that the Patriots are underdogs. Ever, period. They're not underdogs.
But I kind of like it, though, because they're not being complacent. They find any and every little thing that someone says negative about them, and then they turn it and they use it to fuel themselves. And that's why we see them in the Super Bowl.
It's the Kobe system.
Yeah, for 3 straight years. It's annoying. It's really annoying. You got to think about it.
Kobe used to do the exact same thing. He would be like, oh, yeah, such and such from the Celtics. Rondo said this about me. Oh, yeah, I'll see you guys in the championship. And everybody was like, huh? What's going on with that? Why is Kobe mad about that little thing that's whoever said? Might not have been Rondo, but it could have been anybody. And Tom Brady has that same mentality that he's like, oh, this guy said something? Oh, a little bulletin board thing here. We're going to post that here.
Right.
Who's going to say and I feel like a lot of football players, for whatever reason, they want to be that underdog complex. I think that's stupid. My thing is, personally, if you're good, you're going to go out there and win. And you can't come in arrogant. You have to respect what the Rams are doing.
Oh, yeah.
But I think...
they got away with that pass interference.
Yeah, exactly.
That's another topic.
And I mean, I personally think the Rams, guess what?
Ridiculous.
Yeah, I know. It's going to be talked about like a billion times.
Oh, yeah,
that's actually one of the bets, too. Yeah, that is. But I think it's gonna be one hell of a game, though.
Yeah.
Like I said, statistic-wise, during the regular season, those two were almost identical, in defense and offense too. And I just think it's going to translate to the Super Bowl. I think we're going to have one hell of a game.
I think as much as we want to talk about Tom Brady and Jared Goff, the running games are going to be key with Sony Michel. And then we got to find out
James White, Rex Burkhead, Todd Gurley, C.J. Anderson.
Well, Todd Gurley's going to have to stay healthy. We don't know, what's going on with him. He was kind of limping through the NFC Championship game.
They'll get him ready to go, I think, but it won't be.
I mean Super Bowl, he better be ready to go.
C.J. Anderson's been playing his ass off, and I got to tip my cap to him because how he's been bounced around the league this year.
I know, that guy's
and how he came into Los Angeles and just straight dominated for him is incredible. So I think it'll be
resurgence.
Yeah, I think it'll be a great game.
What happened with C.J. Anderson this past week? Did you guys see that with how C.J. I know this isn't Super Bowl related, but this is about C.J. Anderson. He was talking to some woman that was from Montana, and then apparently C.J. Anderson fat shamed her.
Really?
Yeah, it was out of the blue. It was the weirdest thing that I've ever seen in my entire life.
You can't be fat shaming in 2019.
Man, that guy's a Big Mac away from diabetes. and he's gonna fat shame somebody? Come on, man.
That's what I'm saying.
Dang.
I'm like, that makes no sense. I was like, C.J. Anderson fat shaming a girl. I was like, I was like, look, me, I know I'm a big guy, so I'm not fat shaming anybody. I'm not getting on anybody. I'm not calling anybody fat. And I'm like, CJ, you're a chunky boy, and you're 5'8". You're 5'8", 240.
That's like me. That's like me walking up to somebody on a beach and be like, "Damn, dude, you're really pale."
It just doesn't make any sense. I'm like, dude, you need to relax. And this girl, it just didn't make any sense. But I mean, that has nothing to do with the Super Bowl. I just thought that was interesting. It was funny to me that out of all the people, C.J. Anderson wants to fat shame people. Like, dude, you're chunky. Like, you're built like a box. Like, you know.
All right, but going back to the Super Bowl, at first I had the Rams winning. I was like, way too many weapons. Brandon Cooks, Robert Woods, just too many weapons for the Patriots. But then the cornerback had to open his mouth and call Brady old. Bradley Roby, what's his name?
Yeah, Nicole Roby Coleman.
Yeah.
Roby Coleman, yeah.
Bro, you don't talk about Tom Brady being 40.
I did see that, too.
It's a wrap.
That's the last guy you want to piss off
right.
for the Super Bowl.
I was like, the second I heard that, I was like, oh, it's over. It's over. Patriots are going to win this game. They're going to find a way, who's 40 now?
Yeah.
Come on, bro.
And knowing the competitor that Tom Brady is, he's going to call him out during the game at some point.
He's probably going to pick on him.
Or hell, Edelman will probably do it for him because, Edelman's a big trash talker,
too. He's got to point across at him and be like, yo, you talking smack about the king? You can't do that.
Or, can you imagine Chris Hogan burning him and Brady goes up to him and be like, dude, you just let up a touchdown to a lacrosse player.
You had a lax bro torch you? Come on.
Think the key. Go ahead.
Oh, no. You go ahead. What's the key? What are the keys to the game?
All right, the keys to this game for both teams. If you're LA, you got to keep Brady off the field. That's a given. That's a given. You got to keep Tom Brady off the field, and you got to keep moving the ball. I don't care how. You just got to eat up as much clock as possible. If I'm LA, I want to keep this low-scoring game. The last thing I would want to do is try to get into a shootout with one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. For LA defensively, you got to find a way to hit Tom Brady without getting flagged.
Somewhere in the.
I know that sounds like almost impossible because if you touch him,
you gotta hit
it's a
him with the
15-yard
pillow.
penalty.
You gotta hit Tom Brady with the pillow. If you don't hit him with the pillow, bring your pillows, man. Wade Phillips told them to get pillow certified. They need to go out there and smack this dude with the pillow because that's the only way you'll be able to get. Touch Tom Brady.
Yeah, that rough in the passer calling that Chiefs playoff game where the guy just graced him. Oh my God.
Unbelievable, man. And it's something that always goes on in a Tom Brady game. But Eric, what are the prop bets too in this game?
All right, so we got 10 ridiculous prop bets going. So we'll go down the list and see what you guys think. The number one of them is the total number of Donald Trump tweets on the day of the Super Bowl. So it's throughout the entire day, not just during the Super Bowl. The over is 6 and the over under is 6. So what do you guys think?
I think I tweet more than that, so I think he'll definitely tweet more than that.
I don't really follow Trump, so I don't know how he tweets.
Either,
but I kind of feel like he doesn't tweet that often.
I think I heard somewhere that the last Super Bowl he didn't send out a single tweet. But I think everything now that he's president and everything going on,
and
the national anthem,
with Tom Brady,
yeah, he's like best friends with Tom Brady. I'd still take the under though.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the under.
I really can't see him, posting over 6 tweets unless something drastic happens during the national anthem or something. But other than that, I'm going with the under.
What's the next one?
Will a player leave the game and not return due to concussion symptoms?
That is absolutely disgusting to bet on.
But I wouldn't be surprised if it.
I mean, Brandon Cooks is in the Super Bowl, so it might happen.
I mean, jeez, man, jeez. That's awful. That is so awful. I mean, at least he didn't do the roll bounce like Stephen Ridley did the one time. He did the split.
To be honest, I think Brandon Cooks might actually go off in the Super Bowl too.
Yeah, I mean, I think he would have a good game.
I'm gonna say yes because I feel like it's gonna be like one of those instances on special teams where some guy gets just hit out of the clear blue and he just goes into concussion protocol and he doesn't come back into the game.
This is also saying that we're not hoping someone gets a concussion.
Yeah. Just getting that out there. We really don't
let anyone get concussions out here.
We do not like CTEs on Mobtown Blitz.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, not CTEs, but CTE period.
Yeah.
My bad. My grammar is terrible today. Don't mind.
Tell the truth.
All right, so you want me to go to the next one?
Yes.
All right, number 3. Will any scoring drive take less time than it takes Gladys Knight to sing the national anthem? So the odds for her to sing the anthem are 1 minute and 43 seconds. So do you think any scoring drive will take less than 1 minute and 43 seconds?
Yes. So, and the reason why I'll say this is because I think the Rams defense sets them up nicely. I think Aqib Talib gets a pick or Aaron Donald gets a strip sack, and then it causes the Rams to have a really short drive. I could see that happening easily.
And it can also be like, if she goes to 2 minutes 30 seconds or whatever. So anything under 2 minutes 30 seconds.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I agree with you, Kyle.
Two high-flying offenses.
Yeah.
Just that Rams defense, crazy. They got, big physical corners with Aqib Talib and Marcus Peters, who's just an absolute ball hog. And then, Aaron Donald and Dominican Sue, I don't know, that's just not fair with those guys on the defensive line. But like you said, I do believe that the Rams will cause a turnover and give them short field to make a quick score.
All right, so the next one. Which company airs the first commercial after the coin toss? You got Bud Light at 15-1 odds, Budweiser 15-1, Coke 19-1, Hyundai 19-1, Skittles 19-1, Mars/M&M's 24-1, and Kia 24-1.
And then the field.
And then the field, yeah.
So I'm going to go with the field.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the field,
and
too.
And the reason why I say the field is because I think that Gillette commercial is going to go. That's
going to be the one that aired on YouTube. Yeah.
I think that one is a perfect chance to be like, okay, we're going to talk about toxic masculinity. and I wouldn't be surprised. I just honestly wouldn't be surprised.
So you guys both said the field.
Yeah, because of Gillette.
And they also spent $5 million a commercial, which is ridiculous. Oh, also, we get a Doritos commercial this year. Yes.
What do you guys think, though?
I
you
love
guys
it.
taking the field?
Yeah, I'm taking the field.
Then
And I hope Doritos
I'm going to go
early.
against it and be the typical fan and say Bud Light. I'm not going to say Bud Light because Bud Light commercials are always usually funny and in the middle of the game.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say probably a car commercial. So I'll say Hyundai.
I have a Hyundai.
Yeah.
You know,
so
Hyundai
I'll
ever wants to, if Antwerp and Hyundai ever wants a sponsor, it's here right
so
here.
I'll say Hyundai gets the first commercial. All right, the next one is how many times will Giselle be shown on TV during the live broadcast? The over/under for this is 1.5.
Depends on how well Tom Brady plays.
So I think it's definitely over 1.5. It's gonna be like 2. I think it'll be 2. So
yeah, show her like in the press box or whatever a couple times.
What did you say though, Eric, before we started recording about Brent Musburger and AJ McCarron's wife?
It doesn't make any sense. I mean, that's just.
Well, yeah, if he was in the booth, then the over/under would probably be set to like 10.5 instead of 1.5.
Well, that's because Alabama blew out. That was a national championship game.
Was that the Notre Dame game? Wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah.
All right, so next one, the quote, what will they say broadcaster props? So will either broadcast announcer say underdog, yes or no?
Yes.
Will either broadcast announcer say odds?
Ooh,
Yes.
I'm going to say no.
Odds are? Yeah, they'll definitely say yes.
Well, Tony Romo might say it.
I'm going to say yes. Will either broadcast announcer say point spread?
No.
No. Will either broadcast announcer say GOAT? Yeah. Tom Brady, yeah. Will either broadcast announcer say dynasty? And that the over-under for that is 3.5.
I'm going to go with the under.
Under, yeah. I think maybe Jim Nantz will probably say it once, and maybe Tony Romo will say it, but I don't see them mentioning that more than 3.5 times. The next one is, what color will the Gatorade or liquid be dumped on the head coach of the winning Super Bowl team?
This is the dumbest thing I've ever seen.
Orange, you can go clear, water, yellow, red, blue, green, purple.
Why is this even a bet?
There are over 1,000 different prop bets for the Super Bowl.
Why is this a bet?
It's a blue team, so I would say blue.
Orange Gatorade is where it's at.
It's got a stained jersey.
I'm going to be that jerk and say water.
No one's dumping water.
All right, so how many plays will Tony Romo correctly predict ahead of the play? The over-under is set for 7.5.
I'm taking the over.
I took the over last time when me and Joe talked about this on offside position, but yeah, I definitely take the over.
I'll say under just to be that guy. How many times will Ted Rath be mentioned throughout the game?
Is that the get back coach?
That's the Rams get back coach. The over-under is 3.5.
I think it's less than that.
No.
Because I don't think people care as much about it.
Yeah, I think if anything, they'll mention it once for like
the first time he does it.
Yeah, that's about it. The last one, who will win the Super Bowl MVP of the game thank first? So the Super Bowl MVP, who will they thank first? Teammates at 3-2 odds, coach is at 12-1, families at 12-1, God is at 3-1. The owner's at 12-1 and does not thank anyone at 5-2.
So
I'm going God.
Well, I think it depends on who wins.
Yes.
So if Tom Brady wins it, he's not thanking God.
No.
I can tell you that right now. He's gonna be like, well,
I want to thank my
Alex Guerrero. He's gonna say Alex Guerrero somehow, but no, I think Jared Goff, same thing. I feel like they're more cosmopolitan guys. They're not really like those guys that typically say, oh yeah, I want to thank God. They've never, I've never seen Jared Goff say it. Even when he was back at Cal.
Yeah.
Tom Brady, I've never seen to be like a God guy. So I don't know about that. When it comes to the family stuff, I can see Tom Brady talking about his family. Jared Goff is like, if he wins it, personally,
Jared Goff's gonna thank Halle Berry if the Rams win the Super Bowl.
I don't even think Jared Goff wins the MVP if the Rams win the Super Bowl, but I think
hot take.
I think Aaron Donald does.
Oh, really hot take.
Johnny Hecker.
Thank Johnny Decker for setting them up in good.
Have like 10 punts inside the 10-yard line.
Yeah, exactly. I got a short field every time. That's what I'm thinking my punter.
Right.
Well, I think Wade Phillips for being the GOAT.
I actually think if the Patriots win, I actually don't think Tom Brady will be the Super Bowl MVP. I think this time around,
Give it the call.
I think James White will be the Super Bowl MVP.
Oh.
Like the underdog for that.
That makes sense.
If he does, I'd say he give it to his family first.
Yeah.
But like you said,
James White's gonna thank God first.
You think James White will thank God first?
Yeah.
I think Aaron Donald would thank God first.
Yeah.
Or his family, one of the two.
So I'm saying whoever, it's probably going to be somebody say family or God first. I don't think a player's ever said, oh, thanks to the owner first.
Right.
Yeah, I've never seen a player.
And I've never seen like a sideline reporter say, who would you like to thank? And the player's like, I don't want to thank anybody. I did this all on my own.
Right.
But
forget everybody else.
And before we wrap up, as much as we bag on the Patriots, we gotta appreciate what they've done, and we gotta appreciate, yes.
Do we have to appreciate, Boston sports whining about everything, talking about, oh yeah, well, we're just such underdogs, and we have had nothing.
I'm not talking about Boston sports fans. I'm talking about the greatness that is Tom Brady.
Tom is great. Don't get me wrong.
We might never see anything like this ever again.
You gotta understand too, like growing up being from this area and having to deal with, the BS calls and all that stuff. Bart Scott throwing the flag into the stadium. I wish, what, one of these days we got to get Bart on a podcast somehow. We got to definitely get him on to talk about
I feel like if we did that, we wouldn't be able to finish recording because we'd just be busting out laughing the entire time.
I know he would have some great things to talk about.
Oh, man, that would be hilarious.
Can't wait.
That scared the living hell out of me, man. I almost jumped out my seat. God dang.
But with that being said, Eric has something to say to close us all out.
All right, that'll about do it for us here. Hope you enjoyed the show, and if you did, subscribe to us wherever podcasts are available, and maybe even leave us a review on iTunes, as that'll help grow us in the charts and reach more people.
5 stars only.
You can find me on Twitter at Himmelheber, EHIMMELHEBER.
All right, this is Anthony here. You can find me at Instagram and Twitter at AAYEE Barkley, BARKLEY.
Hey. Kyle Andrews.
Nah, I'll pass.
On Kyle. Jeez. And you can follow me on Kyle Andrews. At Kyle Andrews.
You can follow me on Kyle Andrews. You got your own social media.
Let me get this over with. Jeez, we've been at this forever. Kyle J. Andrews _ on Twitter.
And don't forget to check out DMVSportsNetwork.com. Follow them on Instagram and Twitter at DMV_SN. And if you want to join the team, contact them via Twitter, the website, or shoot them an email at DMVSportsNetwork@Outlook.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next week.
Yeah, first episode done.
It's finished.